Call the meeting order, please.
Commissioner Decker?
Here.
Densberger?
Here.
Jeffers?
Here.
Call? Mayor Mingus?
Here.
The law present, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. We will skip the invocation, the pledge, and go right to business, if we may. Anybody in the audience want to speak to the council on an agenda item? Come forward, please. Does anybody in the audience want to speak about an agenda item? Come forward. Seeing no one come forward, Commissioner Jeffers.
I have one item this morning, Mr. Mayor. Resolution of repealing resolution number 1819-050, authorizing the submission of a referendum on the question of whether the city of East Peoria should retain the commission form of municipal government. Whereas on August 7, 2018, the City Council passed resolution number 1819-050, authorizing the submission of a referendum on the question of whether the city of East Peoria should retain the commission form of municipal government. And whereas the City Council has duly considered resolution number 1819-050 at a properly called special meeting for the purpose of said reconsideration, and whereas the City Council finds it is in the best interest of the city and its citizens that resolution number 1819-050 be repealed, now therefore be resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, that Section 1, Resolution number 1819-050, authorizing the submission of a referendum on the question of whether the City of East Peoria should retain the commission form of municipal government, is hereby repealed in its entirety. Section 2, the city clerk is hereby directed to not certify the question to the Tazewell County clerk. Section 3, this resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately upon its passage and approval in the manner provided by law. Mr. Mayor, I move that the resolution number 1819-056 be adopted as presented.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call. Discussion, and I guess that'll be, if I have the permission of the council, to go first as far as this statement. I want to thank the council and staff for attending this special meeting. I personally continue to believe the Commissioner form of government warrants continual review. I also believe the citizens have a right to decide what change ought to be casting their ballots. I also believe when citizens cast their ballot, they have the right to know exactly what they are voting for. Currently, despite a good faith effort by city legal staff, the more they research what the result of voting not to retain the commissioner form of government would mean, the more uncertain they became. The difficulty is the discrepancy between returning to what our government was 100 years ago when the city was a village, compared to the alderman form of government we would be required to adopt as defined by the Illinois Municipal Code. They are not congruent. Such inconsistencies create the possibility of more uncertainty, chaos, future litigation, spending much needed money, jeopardizing the city bond rating, and most important, the confidence of our citizens. The best alternative is to repeal this question at hand and to do it right by future petitioning or legislative action. Haste makes waste, and we cannot afford any waste. I'll go to council for further comments.
I'll be happy to speak first. Spending money is the first thing that came out there. Frankly, I don't think the city should have ever spent a dime on this. I don't think it was the city, the responsibility of the city taxpayers to spend money on this issue. I think issues like this need to come from the residents. Back a month ago or so, when the issue of city manager form of government was first brought up, I stated then that I was not a fan of the city manager form of government. However, would be persuaded to vote to put that question on the ballot if the residents contacted me and asked me to do so. That did not happen. I heard from no one that was, I heard from one person, I'm sorry, I'd be accurate, heard from one person that said, well, I'd like to see that form of government placed on the ballot, besides those that spoke at the council meeting that night. So therefore, over the next couple weeks, the other initiative was brought forward, and petitions were cast or signed and then given to the city for review, and then subsequently asked us to put it on the ballot because of some, I think, communication issues in figuring out how many voters they needed to sign the petition in order to get it on the ballot in the first place. So then a couple weeks ago, we were charged with the question of, do you want to put the city manager form of government on the ballot? And then this other subsequent question. Again, having heard from no one stating, hey, put the city manager form of government on, I decided not to support that. But on the other issue, I have a stack of petitions here. 200 people at least have signed these petitions. I've got them with me today. They were signed, and they wanted us to put it on the ballot. Whether I'm a fan of that one or not, I'm not sure. There are parts of it that I am intrigued by. Other parts that do concern me. Some of the issues that have been brought up, some of the insecurities, unsure consequences. However, when I had that many citizens come forward and say, I want you to do this, I chose to support it. So I did. And then here we are a couple of weeks later asking us to rescind that. I was honestly, I was hopeful to hear from some in the audience today, because I know a lot of you are here, and I don't know which side you sit on. I don't know if you would like us to rescind this. I don't know if you want us to continue to leave it on the ballot. So therefore, I'm just going to go with the decision that I had made prior to coming here. Between 2 weeks ago and today, nothing has changed for me. A large group of citizens asked us to put it on the ballot, and I voted to do so. That's not changed in the last couple of weeks. Those citizens have still, they're out there, they've asked us to have it on the ballot, so therefore I'm not going to change my vote to take it off the ballot. I do understand these questions are out there. Whether we're going to be required to have wards, whether we're going to potentially being partisan, how many people would be on the city council, whether it be 4, 6, 14. I know those questions are there, but those questions are there whether this is on the ballot now or petitions are signed here again over the next couple months and then is on the next ballot, or I'm sorry, the next election. So those questions are still out there, but my position has changed. I believed I was doing what the voters wanted me to do, those that have signed this petition. And I have looked through the petition. I looked at the people that circulated the petitions, and there were numerous. I looked at the people that signed the petitions, and there are some people that have been in this community for a long, long time, have love for this community, and asked to put it on the ballot. So on those, with those thoughts, I've had no one come forward and say, hey, Dan, I changed my mind. I signed that petition, but I didn't know what I was getting myself into. So therefore, would you save me and vote to take it off the ballot? I've not heard that from anyone. So therefore, I'm going to leave my vote the way that it is. Someone asked a couple hours ago, I was talking with someone, what's your personal opinion? I'm not sure. I'm not a fan of the city manager form of government. And I know that there is an initiative that is right behind this one, after rescinding this, that the city manager form of government will again come forward. And I'm not a fan of that. I don't know that I have to worry about that, though. I've spoken with many people in the community, and I don't believe there is a strong feeling for the city manager form of government. The managerial form of government, however, there are intriguing points to it. The thought of one person being over a department may be able to be remedied with some different thoughts, basically by committees rather than one person. I understand that. So I'm not going to form an opinion of whether I want that to happen or not. But as far as today goes, just to sum it up and stop talking, a couple weeks ago when I voted to put this on the ballot, I did so because I felt that's what people wanted me to do. And that's not changed since then, so I'm going to leave my vote the way it is.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Jeffers?
This was an effort really initiated finally, I guess officially, by the council. I mean, there was the petition drive and so forth, and I stated before, the different forms of city government, whichever one you have, essentially you'll have the same city services and et cetera. It should be transparent to you as citizens. It should be transparent to me as well. It wouldn't be an earthquake to shake us if we went to either of these forms, and there's even some others that haven't been mentioned at all. I do believe there are strong points for each one. I've served under this style for the last 11 years. Some of you in the audience are retired city officials, over 30 years under the commission form, or so. So it has served us, is serving us, and if we stay where we're at, I think we're okay. There's some points that we have addressed and can be fine-tuned, but it's still, we would be okay if we continue as is. I don't see that as a red flag that something wrong has happened, that we need to make a quick move to change away from it. However, are there other systems or other models out there? Yeah, of course there are. And the idea that there could be one out there, and the real question that's causing this repeal resolution is the fact that going to the default that the state has put upon us is not clearly defined in really black and white. It really isn't. And that's why legal has given the question answer sheets that you've had before us, the detailed question answer sheets. If it was clear cut that it was going to be 6 aldermen at large, and that'd be very well defined. And that would be very similar to what we have now, except where we are all at large, and then that wouldn't change much. You'd add an extra couple of people to it, and it would change the role of the mayor a little bit, and it would be more of a committee-driven type system, and there's some positives to that, I agree. But we don't know, maybe clearly, based on current state law, where we're at. I guess I'm of the optimistic side that if it were adopted, or put it this way, if this resolution as it stands, the commissioner form were to be voted down, people say we don't want commissioner form anymore. And it would default back to this. I guess I'm of the view that it would work out to be reasonable and much to a consensus view of what would work best for the city of East Peoria for the next generation. I don't know. The question mark is, would the courts do it correctly? Maybe not, but there's also state of Illinois legislature that could make it very clear, fix this loophole or these loopholes in the system that have allowed this quagmire to be upon us, where the state law does not define this specifically as where we're headed, and it would throw it to the courts unless you had legislation. So I guess I'm more the optimistic person that if this were to, if people really did not want the commission reform, period, because they think it doesn't work and we need to throw it away, then I'm confident that if we were to default back to the aldermanic type, it could be made to work. I don't see that as a red flag totally for me. I guess maybe I'm being too optimistic. This is Illinois. I maybe shouldn't be that optimistic because sometimes things can get bogged down and be a problem. But at this point, I think the voters can make a decision as to what they think is best. If the aldermanic item is such a poison pill, then you would just simply vote to extend the commissioner form. And if there's another petition drive for another form, there's 3 or 4 others that are viable options, I guess that could take its natural course as well. And there are some possible, and in fairness to our attorney, there are some possible hiccups along the way, but I'm an optimist, and I think that could be handled if the voters were to turn down the commission form. So I think either way, the commission form has served us. We're okay. There can be some changes. It still depends on the quality of the people you elect. No matter what form of government you have, the quality of people you have to represent you fairly and accurately. And I personally, I will keep the same vote that I had 3 weeks ago, approximately, and I will still vote to leave this. I will vote against the rescinding of the resolution, but I respect those that differ. I hope you respect me for my difference as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Jeffers. Commissioner Call, please.
Yes. I have remained consistent in my position, and I will today by supporting this, in that I stated all along, I don't feel this council should be involved in placing a referendum on the ballot, shouldn't be involved in a decision of which form of government is best for the city of East Peoria. My position has always been it needs to be driven by the citizens. So I see that some are questioning, well, how about the voice of the people? The voice of the people comes in the form of a petition, which Commissioner Decker had mentioned. The requirement for a petition from the people to place it on the ballot would be 420 signatures. They obtained 221. I'm not discounting that. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. So this council took it upon itself. Whether you like it or not, it's just, here's some truth to you, if you will. Took it upon itself to place it on behalf of whoever was driving those petitions to place this on for consideration by council, at which time it was approved August 7th. I didn't agree with it, didn't support it. Didn't support the other one, which was the question pertaining to managerial forum. Once again, I'm consistent in my position that I don't think this council should take part in any way, shape, or form with a decision of this magnitude. It needs to be driven by the people. With all that being said, it doesn't mean I don't have an opinion. We all have opinions. So personally, the million-dollar question is what motivates the drive from the petition standpoint and what motivates the drive from members of this council in seeking the change of form of government? That's the question I haven't heard asked of anybody. So here's my opinion. I think what was disclosed Tuesday night speaks volumes. Personally, as a member of this council, and I'm not ashamed to sit there and say I think accountability is a big factor. So you want to talk about the form of government. It doesn't matter to me what form of government the city of East Peoria has in place. It comes down to the people that are serving in this capacity. And at the end of the day, you make a unilateral decision against the will of the city staff, the city attorney, and the council, you should be held accountable. To me, that's what I view this as being about. That's just my opinion. But I will support the repealing and the rescinding of resolution number 1819-050.
Thank you, Commissioner Call. Commissioner Hinsberger.
Your Honor, it's been expressed by people within the community that I've spoken with that they feel it's time for a change in the form of government. I happen to agree with them. I think that the commission form isn't working. To some extent, we've outgrown it. We're a community of 23,500, but given all the development and things that have been accomplished over the last 3 decades in this city, we're a pretty sophisticated city of 23,500. Mr. Gablehausen has stood before us more than once and advocated for a petition drive to change that form of government. He did so. He organized a petition drive with the very question that we're voting on today. That petition effort fell short by some 200 signatures. Therefore, it would not be placed on the ballot as a result of the petition. Commissioner Decker chose to move that forward on the basis of those 200-plus signatures. Having spoken with a few people that were circulating the petitions, they were unaware of the ramifications of the result of what could result. So let me step into that for a moment. It seems a pretty simple question. Shall the city of East Peoria retain the commission form of government? Seems like a pretty simple, straightforward question. However, it is anything but that, because it simply does not address, if you abandon it, what then? The what then is extremely ambiguous. By state code, the city would step back to the representation that existed at the time that the commission form of government was adopted, which was a mayor and 6 council members. So that would be the initial step. However, and that they were elected at large, so presumably that is what would happen. However, state municipal code does not provide for aldermen, which is the default, aldermanic form of government is the default. State code does not provide for aldermen to be elected exclusively at large. Therefore, it's very tenuous as to whether that would prevail. The alternative to that would be that 3 districts would be created within the city with 2 aldermen from each district or ward being elected initially. The city of East Peoria has never had districts or wards, so those would have to be created before or during the election cycle, I suppose, which is in the spring. To take that a step further, although this could be altered by the next council, at the next census in 2020, based on the city's population by state code, the city would be redistricted, which could result or would result in 7 districts with 2 aldermen from each district. This could be altered, I understand, by a new city council and reduced. However, there's the distinct possibility that you would end up with a council for a city of 23,500 of 15 people, a mayor and 14 aldermen. I don't find that to be a favorable option. In addition, under the aldermanic form of government, the city clerk, which we have a professional in Morgan Cadwallader currently filling that position, and she does a pretty able job, her position would become elected. The city treasurer, which we currently have a financial professional, Mr. Becker, who does a very, very good job, his position would become elected. I think that given our city's standing, that bringing in elected officials that may or may not have particular qualifications for those positions in place of 2 professionals is a dangerous thing. So my issue with this question is, and I would like for the form of government question to be put before the people, but I think it needs to be done in a much more straightforward way. We attempted to put shall the city of East Peoria adopt the managerial form of government on the ballot. That's a pretty straightforward thing. You can leave it alone or you can change it to that form. To me, for this question to be viable, it should be, shall the city of East Peoria adopt the aldermanic form of government? Straightforward. What's it going to be? And then allow it to be spelled out as to what that representation would be. This is simply a very ambiguous question that throws a lot of things, including the city's ability to do business, into question. In talking with Mr. Triggs, you know, if the city issues does a bond issue, one of the questions the bond council asks is the city government properly constituted? Be a difficult question to ask because we wouldn't be sure. I assume it would probably end up in court. I cannot support this question. I didn't support it being placed on the ballot previously, and I will be more than happy to cast my vote to have it removed from the ballot. I agree. I would like to see an initiative come from the citizens if we're to change our form of government, but I would like it to be a very straightforward, simple question that people can make an informed decision upon, and this does not do that. I cannot support it, and I was very pleased when the mayor called today's meeting and gives us the opportunity to walk this back because I think it's wrong for the city.
Thank you, Commissioner Densberger. Attorney Triggs, any comments?
No, sir.
All right, we're at the moment. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Decker?
No.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
No.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
I have 3 ayes and 2 noes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Motion passes. Anybody in the audience want to speak to the council on a non-agenda item, come forward. Non-agenda item? Rachel, good to see you.
You too. I wanted to address what I heard at the last meeting Tuesday. I would like to know, how is it that somebody can get fired for stealing stuff from the city to get rehired? I was taught in kindergarten, if you steal something, that's stealing. And I'm sorry, Dan, but for you to say there's 2 sides to every story, what other side? They stole something. If I were to go to Target or any of these other places in the levy district and steal something, our boys in blue are gonna take me to Pekin, I'm gonna get arrested, I'm gonna have all these fines associated with that. I would just really like some answers aside from there's 2 sides to every story.
The problem, Rachel, is we're bound by laws. We're bound by laws that protect employees. And Dennis, please stop me if I'm going someplace that I cannot. On this city council, I and Commissioner Jeffers are the only people that heard that employee's side of the story. That employee said to me what they did had been done in the past with permission. And I immediately looked at the supervisor, asked if that was true, and it was confirmed. I do not view it as theft. So therefore, I made the decision I made. Not only do I stand by that decision, I can stand up here today and say, I'm the only person, or Commissioner Jeffers and I are the only people that sat in that 3rd step of that grievance process. So having said that, you're charged with making a decision, and you make a decision with the information you have, all of the information you have. And I did that. And I believe I made the right decision.
So what happens if, say, 6 months down the road, somebody gets fired for something? They're gonna lawyer up and say, oh, well, so-and-so, which is essentially going to cost us. I just want my opinion known that I think it was a terrible decision. And with the elections coming up, I would hope that everybody does their homework on who they're voting for and pay attention to what's going on in the city.
I want to make a comment.
Thank you, Rachel.
I'd like to make a comment. Theft is theft. I don't care if it's $10, if it's $500. I don't care if 50 people walk into Walmart and get away with stealing something, and the 51st person gets caught. I take exception to the idea that that's the second side of a story.
Here's the problem.
No, I'm going to
It's
finish,
fine.
Commissioner Decker, because I made it clear when this happened that a police investigation needs to happen. Let's just lay it out here right now in front of everybody, because this, I am sorry, but I was raised by parents that taught me well. Theft is theft. You walk into Walmart right now and walk out with a 15-cent package of gum and get caught. That's theft under $500. Explain to me how any public employee is held to a higher standard. I don't care if 15 people do it before you. Does that make it right? Absolutely not. You had city staff, city attorney, fellow council members tell you not to bring back an employee that was terminated for those reasons. He made the decision not to do a police investigation. When I learned that he brought not 1 but 2 employees back that had been terminated for similar circumstances, and what I'm telling you is public record. It's public record. I'm not sitting up here telling you something that's confidential. So don't misunderstand me, and if you doubt me, submit a FOIA. and you'll learn that I'm sitting up here telling you the truth. Literally 60 days or so after the one incident happened, I found out through the mayor that Commissioner Decker made a unilateral decision to rehire the employees. Commission form of government gives him the authority to do it, and there's not one other person on this council that has a say in that. That's a fact. So, with that being said, there's my $1 million question that was never asked, whether it came from the private side. I don't know what his motivation was, seeking to change the form of government, and I'm not going to speak for any other member of the council. As I stated, it's my opinion. But I take exception to the fact that there's a second side of the story. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And at the end of the day, we should all be held accountable for our own actions, including myself. I expect nothing less.
Commissioner Call evidently did not listen to what I stated. Commissioner Call did not hear this employee's side. Commissioner Call did not talk to that employee. Commissioner Jeffers sat in that meeting with me. I asked Commissioner Jeffers not to make an opinion, but I told him, I said, if you believe I'm making a poor decision, tell me. And he did not. He stated last council meeting that he supported my decision. Commissioner Jeffers also heard that employee's side of the story. The fact is that, again, you're charged with making a decision with the information you have, and I have more information than Commissioner Call. So Commissioner Call has never cared for me as a commissioner, and that's fine, and it's just the way it is.
Wow.
But, I mean, it goes back quite a while, talking about not wanting me to be an employee as well as a commissioner. However, I'm not going to sit here and throw stones at him, and all I'm going to do is defend the decision that I've made. And I believe I can do that. And if I had to make that decision over, even with people in the public staring at me, I'd make the same decision today.
Thank you, Commissioner, both commissioners. I think it's important to note, though, that let's say hypothetically Commissioner Decker made the right decision. 3 commissioners contacted legal counsel to overrule that decision, and we were not able to do that. That's dangerous, as far as I'm concerned, that one person has that authority. Not that it was, I mean, I'm not going to put value on it today, but that's the commissioner form of government, and that is a dangerous situation when 3 commissioners want something different and we can't get it done.
Your Honor, if I may.
Yes.
Commissioner Decker has shared that rationale with me in the past privately, and this is my issue with that rationale. It's simply that by law, there is only one body within the city that may dispose of city property. It's the 5 of us, by vote. If this person was told that they could take this city property for their own use, that's inappropriate. It's illegal. If it has been a practice within the department in the past, that's even worse. It goes to an organizational culture that's broken. It was theft, and the rest of it is rationalization.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience want to speak to council on a non-agenda item? Please come forward. Frank.
My name is Frank Moore. I live at 317 Cottonwood Circle. What I'm hearing right now is the reason that for 40 years I have urged that we do away with the commission form of government. It is wrong that any single commissioner unilaterally can make decisions that affect the normal day-to-day operation of a city. The council's job is to do the political end, to make the decisions of what they feel is best for the city. But for any single commissioner to be able to make a decision, irregardless of the rest of the council, is not a good form of government. I agree entirely with the decision you made today to take it off the ballot because of all the problems with it. But I urge everyone to take a good look at what we need for a form of government. And the commission form of government is passed. It's made for a community, a very small community, where the street commissioner patches the streets, plows the snow, the water commissioner takes care of the water system, the police commissioner is the police chief of police. It's not for a city of our size. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, you're next.
Hi, Jeff Gablehausen. I actually wasn't going to speak, believe it or not, but since Gary mentioned me by name and John by reference, I think I will. John, you asked what the motivation was. You're seeing part of it. Frank, I appreciate your comments. And I also want to say, I'm the guy that screwed up the petition drive. I thought it only needed 10% of the voters instead of 25%. We would have had no problem getting 25%. Hell, we could have got 100%. I mean, I apologize to a couple of the folks in the audience that circulated those petitions. Gary, maybe some folks were confused, but understand, there is an underwhelming current wanting change. Why do people want the commission form of government change? What are some of those issues? I don't know anything about the one that you guys have been talking about. Let's talk about some of the other ones. This is what's happened with this council in the last few years. Some of these items were shared privately by the mayor and Dennis when they hosted a meeting with the former mayors a few months ago. That's what initiated some of this. So here's a few examples. Number one, we have an individual council member, maybe one of you, maybe it was one of your predecessors, negotiated a union contract without legal's involvement.
That was me.
Doing that has cost the city hundreds, if not millions, of future dollars. This is my 5 minutes. Individual council members initiating legal action without the consent of the rest of the council. So any one of you can say, hey, go sue somebody. That happens. It happens regularly. Individual council members instructing their department head not to work with the city administrator. Individual council member refusing to honor the authority that all of you by ordinance gave the city administrator. That's happening. One of the highest debt loads per capita in the state of Illinois. This city owes almost $200 million. A lot of that is a result of activities made possible by the commission form of government. We have one of the highest combined sales taxes and property taxes in the history of Illinois, in the state by far. I worked my butt off to stop a $15 per month garbage fee that the council was considering implementing several months ago. That would have been a $180 tax on the citizens. I came forward, I presented documentation, I argued against that $180 per household garbage fee. We have contracts, and fortunately this is not a sequence, right? The contracts are not enforced with developers and land sellers. We've spent, and I wish somebody would FOIA this and really get into it, we spent over $10 million that we didn't need to because we failed to hold a land seller and a developer to a contract. Incredible, $10 million plus. We have individual council members creating a new department, appointing a department head, and it never coming to the council for a vote. That's happened. We have department advocacy happen so strongly because you're each over your individual departments. That advocacy becomes so strong, we spend money we didn't have. Commissioner Densberger agreed to appointment of a new deputy fire chief, which might be a great position. I'm not arguing about the merits, but one of his comments was, even though it's not a budgeted item, revenues are such that we can afford it. Is that a close paraphrase?
That's essentially what I said, yes.
And the reason we had that money is because we implemented a sales tax increase a few months before. So it wasn't on the merits of the position, it was we have the money, but we only have the money because we implemented a sales tax increase, which, John, you voted against, which I found kind of amazing. You voted against the source of revenue, but then you were one of the first to look to spend it.
Excuse me.
That's another issue.
I
My
actually
5 minutes.
I actually, you stated
I have my 5 minutes.
incorrectly.
And
You
individual
stated
council
incorrectly that I voted against the sales tax increase. Go back and
you voted for
revisit
it.
it.
Oh, okay,
He's on
you
the
voted for
timer,
it, I
John.
apologize. Okay, individual council members making hiring, firing decisions. I mean, you guys have beat that one to death. But it's much, much broader than that. We have problems with the commission form. Now, this is the reality, though. The reality of it is we're gonna have an election in April. The future mayor may or may not be in the room right now. The majority of the council may or may not be in the room right now. But we gotta be careful, because I disagree with some of your decisions, but overall, you're all good guys. And we've been very blessed as a city that we've had good council members, up and down the line. Myself excluded, forget what you think about me. But we've really been fortunate, we've had some good people. If we get a rogue person elected,
30 seconds.
if we get a rogue person elected, the harm they can do to the city is incredible. Guys, I gave Chief Knapp the example. I mean, somebody could get elected, get appointed commissioner over the fire department, and they could say, Chief, you only work 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. Chief, I'm gonna hire my brother-in-law as chief alarm watcher, pay him $75,000 a year, and he's gotta tell somebody when the alarm goes off. The abuses in the commission form are huge. Frank, you're 100% right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I want to state something just
You
quickly.
got that right.
In regards to negotiating a union contract without legal representation, I take great exception to former mayor's comments. Direct, Oh,
Let
give me a break.
him finish.
give me a
ahead.
break. You know, there'd be a lot of merit to what you say today if it didn't come from you. Okay? I'm gonna take it there. So,
I'll take it there.
go back.
Order.
Go back and look at the contract that was negotiated with the union in good faith, without legal representation, compared to all the prior contracts leading up to that, and then come back and tell me that it costs the taxpayers millions of dollars down the road. You might want to take a really good look at that contract. Thank you.
Anybody else? Charlie? Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you. Charlie Morgan. There's an article in today's paper I've been following on the sewage plant now at 53 million. I'm not even gonna go there where we started and where we are. And we're taking out a 20-year loan, which we have to do, I understand that. But it was stated by a commissioner that once this is paid off, it would, the increases would reduce. Is it gonna happen? We don't need to argue about it. We all know that isn't gonna happen. And second of all, it's gonna be 20 years. So a lot of us that are paying for it are gonna be dead.
Careful now, Charlie.
Am I right?
Careful now.
Huh?
I hope not.
20 years? I hope, well, I hope so too, okay. And, you know, and it's just gonna, and the increases, till we finally get it paid for, just like the sales tax that went up, and we had to do that, but that's never gonna go down either, Commissioner Jeffers, no matter what we think. Okay, enough on that. You've never heard me complain about a city employee, and I won't, because they are great. But if a theft occurs in this city by an employee, the first thing that should be done is a police report. Before anybody talks to anybody, you have a crime. And then it goes from there. Theft is theft, no matter where you do it. And in my day, you were terminated, period. There's no, it didn't matter. You stole from the city, you were gone. And in my particular job, you committed a theft off duty and got convicted. They took you before the Fire and Police Commission and you would be gone. But that's a different situation. A police report should have been made out and investigated. Then you would have found out exactly what happened by the police department. I realize you gotta have one department investigating another, which is not an easy thing to do. One time I had to investigate a fellow police officer for neglecting his children. And I didn't want to do it, but Chief Roche said, "You will do it, detective." And that officer was terminated by the Fire and Police Commission. I'm just saying, the police report first, and I'm not putting it on the police department because nobody went to them. Theft, thank you, you three. You and I are friends, Dan, but I disagree. Theft is theft no matter where you work, and there are consequences. And for the city, it's most likely termination. Now, I don't know all the circumstances, don't care to know. The first thing should have been the police report. Then you go from there, period. And I still love all the city employees. A little disappointed if somebody stole from us, you know. It is what it is, but I appreciate three of you that thought maybe something should have been done about it.
Thank you, Charlie. Last call. Seeing no one come forward, comments from the council. Commissioner Decker.
I have nothing, Mayor.
Commissioner Densberger.
Nothing further, sir.
Commissioner Jeffers.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Commissioner Call.
Thank everyone for being here today, and whether we agree or disagree, getting up and sharing your comments. Kind of sad to me to see a full crowd for probably the biggest crowd in 3 years that I've sat on this council. I wish people paid attention all the time, but thank you for taking time out and being here today.
Thank you, Commissioner Call. One last thing, and that is, it's really important, as you can see, who you vote for, putting the right people in place. And if nothing else, this has created an awareness that I'm happy about. I think that's positive. Motion to adjourn, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn until Tuesday evening, September 4th, 2018 at 6 p.m.
Second, please.
Second.
Commissioner Call, roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Densberger?
Aye.
Jeffers?
Aye.
Call?
Aye.
Mayor Mingus?
Aye.
All present, Your Honor, voting aye.
Thank you.